A new report has highlighted the issues facing many highly skilled Kiwi expats wanting to return home. Many have been offshore for more than a decade and fear they are now too qualified or their experience won't be valued in New Zealand. Joining us now for more on that report is Kia New Zealand CEO Tony Truslove. Tony, thanks very much for joining us in the studio this morning. We've spoken about this kind of research before, so this is an update to that. This is, as you say, talking to expat Kiwis once they knew they would be able to return home. And what are their thoughts?
Yeah, so this piece of work was commissioned in December last year, so it caught Kiwis just as borders were opening. And, you know, what we did notice is that there was a bit of a shift from previous surveys that we'd done with the Kiwi population overseas. And I think, you know, the challenge is that many Kiwis, you know, the report showed that they did judge the border closures quite harshly, and obviously it was a challenging time for them. And so I think what the report showed is that yes, there are absolutely still some Kiwis wanting to come home, but we do have a bit of a reconnection job to do with them. And I think importantly, in terms of job, which seems to be a key driver for them in coming home, Kiwi employers really do need to meet the global market in terms of flexibility and
so working from home options,
working
that sort of
from
thing.
home, but also really appreciating the global skills and experience that these Kiwis are coming home with.
Right.
So how they can be utilised to help New Zealand companies.
So are you saying that because there was a lot of anger about not being able to come home through the MIQ system, are you saying that some of that anger has now translated into, well, okay, we feel a bit betrayed, we don't really want to come back?
Yeah, look, we've seen this challenge around the perception of Kiwis coming home and the value they feel is given to their skills for quite a reasonable amount of time. So even before borders closed, there was this perception of Kiwis coming home that employers just weren't valuing their global skills.
Right.
They were often being asked about their New Zealand-based experience, or even sort of being precluded from roles because they didn't have recent New Zealand experience. And, you know, for us, that's just such a travesty because these Kiwis are so highly skilled and they would bring so much back to New Zealand companies.
And just to take one portion of it, 16% of offshore Kiwis work in the tech sector, and New Zealand tech has a critical skills shortage. In fact, NZ Tech is saying that 60% of tech companies in New Zealand say they can't take on new work because they don't have enough people. Yet there was a comment in the study from someone who said, I was too overqualified and considered lying on my CV to get a job. Yeah. So that experience just isn't recognised here.
It's not. And as you mentioned, it is such a travesty because 16% of our offshore Kiwis are active in the tech sector, and many of them are in really senior positions overseas, and this is the exact area where we struggle for talent in New Zealand. So if we could really embrace their global skills and talent, either as they're coming back into New Zealand or even potentially in geographically diverse remote roles, there is a real opportunity for Kiwi tech companies to be thinking about getting these Kiwis into roles while they're based overseas and utilising, you know, all of the diversity and perspective that they bring from afar.
I guess companies here, though, will say, well, it's all very well their experience, but we just don't have the money to pay someone with that experience. You know, we've been living through 2 years of lockdown and yes, we need more staff, but we can't afford to pay them.
And that was another really interesting point that came out of the survey, is that these Kiwis feel really strongly about New Zealand. They identify strongly with us, either from afar or when they come back into New Zealand. And so salary isn't actually the driving factor for them. If they're coming back to New Zealand, they are doing so to be close to family and to kind of reunite with New Zealand culture. And so that does really open the door for Kiwi companies to focus on other areas that are really important in terms of these Kiwis feeling valued and flexibility. And also when employing Kiwis from afar, they are drawn to the Kiwi culture. So there's an opportunity there for that geographically diverse remote hiring as well, and these Kiwis wanting to work for Kiwi companies. So it's not just about salary.